Welcome back to Watching Business Morning here on Channels Television. The International Monetary Fund has described Nigeria's economy as one of the most stable on the continent. Well, this is contained in the World Economic Outlook for 2023. With the current macroeconomic realities, stability seems far-fetched on the minds of many Nigerians, as you heard on the last conversation that we just had. But let's have Mr. Ayodeji Ebo, the Managing Director of Optimus by AfriInvest, join us now. He joins us virtually from Abuja to help us dissect this. Good morning, Mr. Ebo. Good to have you.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so, I mean, since we had this, that Nigeria is one of the most stable economies, a lot of Nigerians have been asking questions. I mean, we just talked about capital importation. We talked about the capital market, and we see them in the red, in the negative, especially when it comes to foreign investment or foreign investors. So how come Nigeria is one of the most stable economies on the continent? Better than Angola?
Okay, thanks. I think we need to look at the context from which IMF is looking at this from. What they are looking at is based on the figure, the GDP numbers, for instance, based on the projection, despite a lot of the volatility within the global economy, we still see that it was positive even at Q4. And when you look at it on the average for the year was at 3%, and based on their projection of 2.88 and 3% in 2024, it still looks stable. But when we look at what we have to also look at, there you can't say they are wrong because they are speaking to the data that they have based on the GDP. But for when we want to also now dissect that number, for us as a country, what is the optimal GDP level for us to be able to have improved standard of living and improved growth? We need that optimal level is still between 5 to 6%, where we would have more people move from that poverty level. Because this stable growth rate, even at 3%, compared to the population growth rate at almost the same percentage, will mean that more people will be going into poverty. And once you have more people going into poverty, it means that it would also impact on business activity, it will impact on insecurity. So I feel that that's the context for which they are also looking at. You see in that in the report, they also try to advise around how the removal of subsidies, which if it's a full removal at once, which will also create some instability because you will see inflation quickly ramp up, and that would impact on also cost of living, cost of things. So we don't just have to pick it from the surface because they have just said Nigeria is one of the stable countries. You also want to look at the other countries. For most of those other countries, you spoke about Angola, at Egypt, most of the South Africa are looking at the those we can call the giants of Africa. When you look at the crisis, the oil crisis, the hike in rates really impacted them on the economy because they are more glued to the economy. For us in Nigeria, since 2020 crisis, we have not even recovered. A lot of the foreign portfolio investors have not even invested in our country. So we did feel that impact last year when a lot of foreign investors were pulling out from other African countries. So when you look at it holistically, you can say, despite the crisis that happened, which impacted a lot of other African countries, it did not impact us much because the way we are positioned, it's not expected to impact significantly on us. They are the foreign portfolio investors that create liquidity for FX for us. They are not doing much in the country. You spoke about capital importation data, 50% year on year down for FDIs. FDI is almost in out. So you would see that it's like either has already down, should fear no fall.
You know, Mr. Edijibo, I wanted to be excited, but the last statement you made kind of questions that excitement. If you say that is already down, first of all, that means that perhaps Nigeria is already down, so we're not fair. But I think one of the things that come out of what you have said is the relationship between the numbers and the reality. Because as you noted, IMF is saying what it says based on the numbers available to it. And a lot of people say, how true or how real are these numbers? Which is what we even discuss when we see our inflation numbers, when we see our GDP. How really is this translating to the welfare and the well-being of Nigerians? I guess that's another conversation that Nigerian economists and analysts, such as yourself, should be having.
Okay, thanks. So I think, first of all, we need to look at the methodology of arriving at this data. So when you look at the inflation data, for instance, it's a basket of over 200 different items. Food items constitute about 50% of the inflation basket. You have imported goods. So there are different goods and it's the average. So what we need to look at, there was a time that it was rebalanced. We need to look at what do we actually spend money on in Nigeria so that it actually captures and reflects when prices move significantly. Imported prices, when exchange rates devalued or was adjusted, especially at the parallel market, how much of impact did they have on the imported goods? Were they properly captured in the inflation rate? So before we can say it's not reflective of reality, you need to understand the methodology of arriving at these numbers. You would see that the inflation rate, when you look at it even for March, that for February rather, that there was a slight drop in the inflation rate. And you could trace it that it was like there was also a base effect, because when you look at the composition of some of these numbers, what happened in prior year also has a way of impacting on the actual numbers. And when you talk about a basket, it means all the items. Some of those items might have increased by 100%, some might have reduced by some percentage, and some might not have increased. So it's the overall, and based on the weight it has, that would reflect on the actual numbers. But when we speak in terms of the cost of living, standard of living, you see, looking at the impact of that, exchange rate has almost direct impact on the standard of living, because we import a lot of things. And even for those that don't import, because they still have to deal or buy things that are imported, or deal with things that has that importation element in quotes, they also have to allow the prices of their goods to reflect that change so that they can afford it. So, you hear that when people, the woman selling groundnut, say, how does it impact? How does the exchange rate impact on what she's selling? But if she does it, she's not able to earn an income that can sustain her, because maybe she has to rent a house, she has to buy a phone that is has FX elements, then she won't be able to continue selling that groundnut. So you would see that she would adjust her price to reflect what is actually happening around her, so that she can be able to at least increase her standard of living to a level. So there are different dimensions, and I agree with Nigerians that yes, when we look at reality, things are really very tough, and we're all just hopeful that as we expect a new government may, some of the things will be put in place to make life better and more bearable for Nigerians.
All right, thank you so much. I hope Nigerians accepted your explanation and perspective to that. Thank you so much, Mr. Ayodele, the Managing Director of Optimus by Afrinvest.
Always my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we wish you a safe trip back to Lagos when you're done.
Yeah, thank you.